All right, hello everybody. Okay, sorry, there was a delay in trying to turn on my camera, so. Okay, 1 second. Wait, I'm just trying to fix, I'm cut off in the green screen, 1 second. Okay, that's the best I can do. I am half cut off. I'm not sure why. I'm trying to try different green screens, but I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, everybody, go ahead and start tapping alive. We only have about 14 likes. So let's see if we can get at least 1K before we start. We have another minute before the candidate comes up. So be sure to do all the good things, which is repost, share the live out to everybody that who would love to hear this conversation. And then also repost and add it to your story. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, and then we repost. Okay, everybody, we're just waiting on the candidate to come. So once we do, we'll go ahead and get started. All right, go ahead and tap. We have about 290 right now and only 12 reshares. So let's see if we can get at least 50 reshares before we start. And thank you all for being here. Today, we usually don't go live on Mondays, but due to the demand of candidates with their upcoming races, such as the primaries and their busy schedules, we are opening up temporarily, or just based off of case-by-case basis on doing town halls on Monday, which is okay with us because that'll help us continue to get on the FYP a lot quicker. So thank you all for the gifts thus far. That's good, y'all. We have 729 likes. Let's go ahead and hit that 1K goal really, really fast before we start. All right, so Texas has been in the news a lot with the upset of the deep red district of District 9 for the Texas State Senate over the weekend with their special election. Candidate Taylor Ramett upsetted GOP candidate that Donald Trump heavily endorsed. So that placed another Democratic seat in the Texas State Legislature, particularly in the Texas State Senate chamber. So that was definitely an upset that has rang bells all across the country. And today we'll be having a candidate that's running for the Texas State House of Representatives seat. So this will be a good conversation. And happy Black History Month, everybody. We are in the second day of Black History Month. So go ahead and continue to tap the live. Make sure you share it out to everybody. And while we're waiting, let me know what are some, maybe I should say, what is your favorite Black History moment or quote or figure that always rings true to you every time around this time every year? Of course, Black History should be 365, but this month is the date and the month we highlight Black excellence and achievements and profound events that happened over time. So let me know how you're feeling. Do you have a particular Black History figure that has resonated with you over the years? Okay, you have Angela Davis. Yes, and for sure Angela Davis, that has made pivotal things in this country. And I love the fact that she's a living legend, still is rocking out to this day. So I appreciate that. What I do, especially with my daughter, I look up Black history figures that tend to not get talked about. Of course, the ones that are notable that we hear about are just as important, but some of the ones that don't get highlighted in history, I tend to get very intrigued on learning who they are. One I did a video on last year with a guy, and I can't remember his name right now, so please forgive me. But what I do remember is when I learned about him, he was a notable mathematician. He did a dissertation on a certain type of math methodology that they still use to this day. So I may repost that or pin it up to my TikTok page just for Black history. And I will be doing a separate video on a notable Black history figure that a lot of people don't know. So I'll be doing that as well. But go ahead and tap. Thank goodness we have 3.6. Let's see if we can get to 5K. If anybody could do us a favor to go ahead and share it out to, I don't know if anyone in the chat is friends with Odus. Let him know that we are live so we can go ahead and get this conversation started. So in the meantime, I do appreciate you all being here and go ahead and get this engagement going up because it will help us. Okay, he's here. All right, cool. I'll go ahead and send him the request so we can go ahead and get started. Hello.
Hey y'all, how are y'all doing? I am so sorry. I am like having all of the technical difficulties in the world, as you can imagine. my
Is this your first live on TikTok?
Yes, this is the older millennial in me struggling.
Oh, no worries. I'm in the latter part of the millennial, so you're okay.
Oh man. Thank you. Sorry.
If you need help, just let me know. I can walk you through it. So do you see the camera icon on your screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, turn that on. And then once you turn that on, it will automatically turn your camera on. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, we practiced a little bit, and the image was just messing with my head and stuff. And I was like, guys, listen, as long as they can see me and I'll spell my name, I think we'll be fine, and then we'll get better at it.
Okay. All right, no problem. Glad that you're here. So let me know when you're ready. We'll go ahead and get started.
I'm ready to rock and roll. How are you doing?
I am doing good. So everybody, welcome to Our Vote Counts Town Hall Live. I am your moderator, Jasby Flower. And so for those who are not familiar with Our Vote Counts, we are a nonpartisan coalition of citizens from diverse states and backgrounds united by a shared commitment to empowering voters and promoting candidates who stand for integrity, inclusion, accountability in the upcoming elections. Formed by a collective of educators, veterans, small business owners, students, and community advocates, Our Vote Counts represents the strength of unity across geography, race, and ideology. While our stories are different, our mission is the same: to ensure that every vote is heard and every vote truly counts. Our Vote Counts is more than just a name. It's a promise, it's a movement, and a rally cry for democracy. So together, we're shaping the future one informed vote at a time. So today, we're joined by Odus Evbagharu. I hope I pronounced it right.
Close. Okay. The B
is
silent. The B is silent. So it's Evbagharu.
Evbagharu. Okay. Yeah. Close. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I try to practice as much as I can. So I'm glad you clarified it for me. So it's Evbagharu? Say it one more time.
Evbagharu. So the B is what throws everybody off. I always tell them when it's silent, and then when they read it, they're like, Evbagharu, and I'm like, just like that.
Okay, Evbagharu. Okay, so you are a Democratic candidate running for the Texas State House of Representatives in
That's
District 135. It covers parts of northern and central portions of the city of Houston. So we will be talking about your background. We'll be talking about the vision for your district, and of course, taking your questions live from the chat as well, and from questions from me. So the format of this town hall, Mr. Odus, is after each set of topic questions, I will open it up for anyone to come up and ask you a question. If we don't have anyone in the queue to ask you a question, I'll pick one out from the chat, or I'll just ask a follow-up. In between those topic questions, I will include some fun rapid-fire sets of questions. The first set will be more political in nature, and then the latter set of the rapid-fire will be more fun. Okay?
all right. Let's do it.
All right. So, Mr. Odus, we learned that you are a seasoned political strategist, you're a community leader, and an advocate for inclusive accountability in government, and also a proud graduate of the University of Houston with a degree in political science. You also dedicate your career to strengthening civic engagement, building broad coalitions, and delivering results for the working families of Texas. And also, in 2021, you made history as the youngest and the first African American chair of the Harris County Democratic. I'm sorry. It was the Democratic
Party.
Texas Democrats.
No, Harris County
Okay,
Democratic
yes.
Party. You're right, in Texas.
Yes, the Texas Democratic Party. So, which that the function of that position, it oversees the fundraising, the budgeting, and the political strategy. Just with that, all that I just covered. For those who don't know you for the first time, tell us, what is the moment or the experience that made you say, okay, it's time for me to run for a state House of Representatives seat, and just to highlight why you wanted to have a vision for the district that you'll be running for.
Yeah, and thank you all so much for having me. Thank you for joining us on this TikTok Live. My name's Odus Evbagharu. I am running to be the next state representative of House District 135. It's in the northwest part of Harris County. It's a Cypress and Katy area. And for me, it's simple. Listen, this moment, this movement, this campaign, it's delivered, it's powered, it's fueled by two simple words: for us. I'm the son of Nigerian immigrants. I'm the proud product of public schools. I own a small business, and I spent my entire life and career bringing people together, including being the chief of staff of this very House district that I'm running to represent. And listen, right now in Texas, Texans deserve better. They simply do. Listen, we need to fully fund our public schools. We've got to make sure that we have Medicaid expansion, and we expand it in the state that has the highest uninsured rates in the country. We've got to make sure that we turn our minimum wage into a livable wage, because, Jazz, I believe that when you work hard, you should be able to you should be able to afford the life that you want to live. We've got to make sure that mothers and families can afford childcare, and that government doesn't interfere with the decisions that women and people have to make about their bodies. And this is all about building the future of Texas. This is about making sure Texas is strong. So this movement, this moment, is not about politics. It's about me and you. It's about people. It's about us. Every family, every child, every dream deserves an equitable shot, a fair shot. So I'm simply running for us because I believe in us. And that's what we've got to do. And we see the things that are happening around the world with us: journalists being arrested, ICE detaining folks who are citizens, killing American citizens, and being a militia that is not constitutionally recognized. So we've got to make sure that we get up to Austin, we fight for these things, we make sure that Texas is being a leading voice and not being regressive in its policies, and making sure that we make lives better. Because when Texas has working families thriving, Texas thrives.
Thank you for that introduction. And so I'm going to go ahead and give you a quick little fun icebreaker question before we get down to the serious conversations. So in the spirit of Black History Month, which Black historical figure would you want to help you strategize for your campaign? If you could pick one, it could be past or present.
Oh, that'd be great. So I'm gonna choose two here because they're like literally on my wall. It's between Angela Davis and Huey Newton, right? These were strategic thinkers in their days, in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, with the Black Panther movement, and the different things that they talked about, the different things that they were about. It wasn't about being radical or being anything like that. It was about being strategically focused on how we can feed poor people, how we can make sure Black boys and girls can read, how we can make sure that we can be self-sustainable when there's institutions that are working against us constantly, right? And it's not just, and then what they did was they took these things and focused on Black folks, but made sure that the least of these, the most disenfranchised communities were thriving off of this. That's why you see Dolores Huerta, right? Cesar Chavez in the labor movement, right? They multiplied. People took from their strategies and impacted them. And that's what we've got to go do in government, right? And these institutions that are working against us, take that playbook, go into these institutions and go make them better and work for working families.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. So not only you had one person, which was Angela Davis, you also picked Huey Newton. So that's a good combination of historical figures that you will have on your team. And I can imagine how that would just play out. So that's a great, those are some great choices. So I appreciate your answer on that. All right, so let's go ahead and start talking about economics and jobs. So some of the facts regarding your district is that the population is about 203,000, which entails about 144K eligible voters. That's a lot of registered voters. And so with the demographics, it's about 20% white, 23% Hispanic, 23% Black, 46% Hispanic, 9% Asian, and the minimum wage is still around $7.25.
That's right.
Yeah, so with that being said, the district has about an unemployment rate of about 4.1%, and it has seen significant job growth in the past recent years. However, you also talked about the field of small businesses developing and still lacking. So what initiatives would you push to increase small business growth and make sure it's sustainable?
Yeah, the biggest thing for us right now in the area that I represent is that we've got to cut red tape. We've got to deregulate some of these things that we've put in there, trying to protect the consumer. We've created a backlog, right? And so we've got to get rid of that backlog. And in order to do that is that we've got to cut some of this red tape and help with some of the permitting that is going on in the district. And then we've got to make sure that we create grants and programs for small businesses to access, right? Small businesses need capital. I needed capital when I started my small business. So we've got to do those things and make sure that we're being in line. And that's going to help not just small business owners, but everyone be successful, right? And that's what we've got to do. Coming from an immigrant background myself and my parents being Nigerian, let me tell you something that immigrants do, right? When they come in this country, they're not committing crimes. They're not here to steal. They're not here to murder. They're not here to make your life worse. What they're trying to do is they're trying to help the economy grow here in America. They're trying to live the American dream. They're trying to make sure that their kids go to school. They're trying to make sure that they're healthy. And most importantly, they take a lot of their money and they send it back home, whether it's Nigeria, whether it's India, whether it's Brazil, whether it's Mexico, whether it's Canada, it doesn't matter. They're taking this money and sending it back home. So we've got to cut red tape. We've got to deregulate some of the rules that we have here in the legislature. We've got to make sure that small businesses have access to capital so their businesses can thrive. So that way they can stay open, pay their employers a livable wage, their employees, a livable wage to make sure that they're thriving. Because again, I keep beating this dead horse over and over again. When working families are thriving in Texas, Texas thrives. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to make this easier for small businesses and not make it harder.
Thank you for that. And you touched on about the economy and how important it is for immigrants to contribute to our economy. But with that being said, a lot of people don't know that Governor Abbott in Texas halted the use of H-1B visas at Texas state agencies and universities.
Right.
So how would this impact the workforce, and what can be done to reverse it?
Yeah, what he's done, well, number one, to answer your question, what can be done to reverse it? Vote.
Yes.
Our side's been losing in
First
Texas
step.
for 30 plus years. There's nothing else you can do but vote. We've got to stop giving platitudes and euphemisms to everybody and say, hey, if you do this, it'll get better. No, the only way you make systemic change in institutions that are designed to work against you is you put people in those institutions to make those institutions more perfect. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to get rid of Greg Abbott. And that was a reckless decision that he did, right? This impacts the competition that we have in Texas. We are the 8th largest economy, not just in the country, but in the world. So when you do things like that and you negate competition, you're telling the rest of the world, well, Texas is closed for business. We can't have that. We've got to make sure that competition is thriving. We've got to make sure that our Texas universities have the best minds at work so that way we can create things more so in the medical center here in Houston. So that way our engineers can have more opportunities and innovation to make sure that our cities that are rapidly growing in size have new technology to work with. We've got to make sure that we're in tune with our immigrants and our diverse communities that we have here, whether it's different languages and how we can get there, right? We're trying to make this easier for folks, not hard. And when you're suspending H-1B visas, that's exactly what you're doing. That means the Texas miracle is at risk. That means our workforce isn't being educated. We're better when we hear a diverse array of opinions, not when we limit it. This is indoctrination. This is the very thing that they preach against, right? You saw this with parental choice. They kept talking about indoctrination, indoctrination, indoctrination. Now we see who's doing the indoctrinating. It's them. When they're shutting down our walls and trying to build up barriers for folks to make their lives easier. This is all about making disenfranchised and marginalized people excluded. And we've got to stop that. We've got to make sure that government is working for folks, that government is loving you unconditionally like it's supposed to do. And so that's why it's really important that we get out and go vote in March 2020. Primaries in November 2026 in the general, so we can make our voices heard, so that way we can get a new governor, reverse that decision, and let the rest of the world and the country know that we're open for business, particularly when competition is fierce nationally and globally.
And thank you for that answer. And I think people tend to forget that primaries are one of the most important things, because essentially that's where you make your decision on who you want from that party before they go into the general election. And just from the sentiments of voter turnout since these past special elections, it's definitely showing that people are actually paying attention. So I kind of look at that as like a sea change right now. And it kind of gives me some type of glimmer of hope that the promise of what this country was established on as far as humanity is concerned and treating everyone equally, it still gives me some hope. So I take those little nuggets to still be hopeful. So I appreciate your answer on that. Okay, so I'm going to allow anyone to come up here and ask Mr. Odus a question. If you're not able to come up, feel free to drop your question in the chat, and I'll read it out to Mr. Odus. Also, in the meantime, everybody, be sure to go ahead and continue to power tap. We only have about 22K likes. Let's see if we can get at least 40K in the next 5 minutes. Also, go ahead and share it out. That does help our algorithm. And go ahead, if you want to participate in the live goal, feel free to do that as well. That helps with our engagement. Okay.
And
so let's roll it into. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Real quick, you gotta stop with the Mr. Odus. Oh my goodness, I'm only 33, y'all. Y'all can call me Odus.
No, you're fine. We're close in age. I'm 36, so you're fine. I just out of formality. I'm sorry.
I appreciate it.
I'll call you Odus. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Clarifying that for me, because I just want to be respectful. So thank you for that, Odus.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, so we're gonna roll into talk about immigration. So as you just mentioned, you are the son of immigrants. So how is it important that people from other countries can come to the United States and pursue a life of freedom and prosperity? Can you expound upon that?
Yeah, it's vitally important, right? Because like for my parents, and I can only speak from personal experience, right? Every immigrant story is going to be different, right? And so for us, particularly my parents came here for opportunity, which is what most immigrants do. They come here, they're making sure that their kids can go to school. One big shout out to my parents, because they're the most selfless people I know. They left a life of comfort where their language was spoken first, came here with broken dialect, and came here and succeeded. And what they wanted to do was to make sure that my brother and my sister and myself were successful in anything that we did. My dad came to this country and started from the ground up, literally making beds at hotels to driving buses, my mom being a nurse's aide and working their way through school. They did this while having 2 kids at the time, because my sister would come 10 years after I did, and making sure that we still played sports. We were integrated into society. We were playing musical instruments. We were theater kids. We were doing everything that kids were supposed to be doing at that age, and learning the American system, learning what democracy is about and how our voices can be used, all while still paying taxes, trying to get their citizenship, trying to make sure that my brother and I had our citizenship. My sister was fortunate to be here, being born in Indiana. So, it's vitally important. And we're a key economic driver to our economy. Here in Texas, immigrants alone Actually, undocumented immigrants alone provide almost $50 billion a year to our economy. I mean, this stuff is really, really important. And so we've got to make sure that we're creating avenues and pathways for folks to become citizens, because don't believe the rhetoric that you hear on Fox News or the rhetoric that you hear on OANN or some of these other far right extremist media outlets. Immigrants are coming here because they've got to make a life better for themselves, and they're sending that money back home so that way those folks at home have a better life for themselves. So we've got to make sure that we're preaching that message and we're spreading that to the masses. And then the other thing that's really important, and I talk about this a lot too, is the injustice of it all. I hate injustice. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. We should always lean in with love. You should never look at your neighbor and look at their skin color, the way they're speaking, their tone, their nationality, their ethnicity, their sexual gender or orientation or expression, and say, I'm better than them. Never should you ever do that. You should always make sure that you're leaning in with love, because you're not better than anyone. And we've got to do this for each other. We have an absolute moral obligation to leave this world a better place than we received it. And the way that we do that is that we're inclusive, not exclusive.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I'm going to pause the follow-up question I have for you regarding immigration, because there's a few questions in the chat. So someone asked, what is your small business? I think you mentioned earlier that you had a small business.
Yeah, it's Onward Strategy Group. It's a small political and communications consulting shop here in Houston. So I get to work with campaigns and law firms and everything in between about how they can strategically go about communications and then working campaigns as well too.
Okay. All right. And I know the question about the Cypress Fair District. I'm gonna pin that way when we get to the education portion. I'll ask about that. So mods in the chat, just be sure to save that for me. That way I can ask that when we talk about education. Okay. So the second question I have for you regarding immigration is, we know that immigrants who migrate to the U.S. They prosper by means to do sometimes overstay visas. That tends to happen, or they'll fail to leave when an order to deport has been issued. So with that being said, however, with the recent events that happened in Minnesota and throughout the country, with the unfortunate events of citizens being tragically unalived, and casting a bad light with ICE, do you think that the agency is necessary to combat the state issue? Let me read that one more time. So, however, with the recent events in Minnesota and throughout the country, it's casting a bad light with ICE. So do you think that the agency is necessary to combat the state's issue? Or do you think it needs to be abolished or reformed?
Yeah, we just got to reform the way that we implement our immigration process. Listen, Senator Langford had a bipartisan bill with Joe Biden about how we can address these things. We need more immigration judges. We need better technology at our border here, particularly in Texas, that goes up to California. And we just got to be humane about this, right? We don't need to be stopping folks who are speaking Spanish, or they look Hispanic, or they look like me and they look Black or African, or whatever it is that these ICE agents are thinking of. We've got to really deconstruct this ICE agency, figure out what's going on, and then build it back up where we're being more humane and we enforce the laws that we have on the books. Listen, America's never going to be a lawless land, right? Texas is never going to be a lawless land. And yes, it's a federal issue. Here at Texas, we can be better partners with our federal brothers and sisters and siblings as well, too. So it's really about reframing how we do this, restructuring how we do this, and not talking to, the masses that don't understand, but going into our immigrant communities and saying, hey, what is it that we can do to help, not discourage? What can we do to make sure that you're being accepted and not being discarded? Like, we've got to think of those things wholeheartedly and in a really good approach. And I think that there's people that are willing to do that on both sides of the aisle, right? It's going to take all of us, not just one political party, to do that. And so I have faith with our federal partners that they're going to be able to do that. And I have faith that when we get to the 90th legislative session in 2027, that we'll be able to think of some creative ways to help and not hurt. But in order to do that, though, we've got to elect the right people, and we've got to elect people who are about the mission and who are about inclusivity and not being exclusive.
I read something about that the Texas authorities have been deputized to target immigration. Can you talk more about that? I noticed other states like Florida has been doing the same. So has it been giving a net negative impact on the state in general when it comes to the public safety of people. We're going to talk about public safety as well, but I just want to know your thoughts on that since we're talking about immigration and deputizing state and local police regarding immigration.
Yeah, the past couple of sessions, you've seen this, right? These bills that have passed that have essentially, like you said, for lack of better terms, deputize folks who are not immigration law enforcement or any of like that, to where they can literally stop you in the street and say, hey, do you have your papers, right? We had a bill here in Texas not that long ago, the Show Me Your Papers bill. And we've seen it replicated in places like Arizona, where it got shut down, and places like Florida and other places, right? And so now you can have like a school ISD police officer stop someone and kind of question their immigration status. And we'll see how it goes, because right now it's in the courts in Texas, and we assume it'll make it to the Supreme Court there in DC. And so we have laws in the book that essentially will deputize, school officers, community college officers, neighborhood officers that aren't part of the city of Houston or the sheriff's department, that's going to be able to talk to undocumented immigrants and arrest them and have them work with ICE. Right here in Houston, we've seen that with the Houston Police Department. We've seen it with other police departments that are cooperating with these ICE agents. We see ICE agents outside like immigration custody hearings, right? Like, these are folks who are trying to do it the right way. They're in a hearing to get their citizenship, and these folks are sitting outside, including some of these militias, some of these police officers that are working off duty. They're all there waiting to quote unquote snitch on these folks when they shouldn't be doing that, right? We should be helping those folks, particularly the folks that are doing it quote unquote the right way and trying to go and try to just live right. So, it's unfortunate that we're in this situation. I hope that when we get to the legislature, we're able to tackle this a lot better. But again, in order to do that from a Democratic perspective like mine, we've got to vote. We've got to get new people in.
Absolutely. And then also targeting those low propensity voters as well, people who have been affected by just the apathetic portions of thinking that their votes don't matter. So thank you for that messaging, because I think oftentimes just with the party in general has been not consistent. You have certain people out there just banging on the drum of messaging, but then other people within the party tend to be complacent. So I appreciate your messaging on that. But let's just go ahead and talk about the affordability and cost of living portion, because that has been a major thing in this country for everyday citizens that people talk about. That's pretty much like the number one issue when it comes to polling. So with Texans knowing that they're struggling with rising costs, from groceries to housing and utilities, what specific policies would you support to make life more affordable for Texans?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we've got to do is we've got to raise our minimum wage in Texas. It's $7.25. We've got to raise our minimum wage to a livable wage. Because like I said earlier, when you work hard, you should be able to afford the life that you want to live. We've got to do that. The other piece of this is expanding Medicaid in the state of Texas. Forget the social part of having insurance and making sure that you're healthy enough to go to work and go to school. Texas every year pays $10 billion in Medicaid, and we don't expand it. $10 billion with a B. That's not just bad for the Texan that is working and can't go to the hospital when they're sick, or take their child sick, or go get regular dental routine, or your eye checkup, or your ears checking, or just a simple physical. It's hurting business as well, too. I don't know any business owner who would tell you that they've paid any kind of money, let alone $10 billion, and not get a return on investment on it, right? It's a derelict of duty. It's hurting us. And we have the highest uninsured rates in the country. So just imagine now, if you're able to have insurance just simply as Medicaid, you'd be able to go to work. You wouldn't be in fear. You would be able to take some sick leave, right? Paid sick leave is a big thing here in Texas. We don't have it. It's another thing that we can implement that's going to help business, right? All of these things intertwine to making sure that we have affordability here. Big thing in Texas are property taxes and how we address that as well too. All this intertwined. But the biggest thing for me is that we've got to increase our minimum wage, and we've got to expand Medicaid. When we start to do that, you're going to see Texas prosper in a way that it's never prospered before, being the 8th largest economy in the world. Those are some simple things that we can do here in the great state of Texas.
And with that being said, you mentioned about the rate hikes with insurance companies, but also people have been experiencing rate hikes with utility companies, whether it's their water bill or their electric bill. And then also, as people know that Texas, they're pretty much independent when it comes to their power grid.
That's right.
Um, could you tell me how can you make a company such as those utility companies and those insurance companies more accountable if they have repeated failures and rate hikes in the state? Could you expound more upon that and tell me what would be your policy prescriptions regarding that?
Yeah, it's simple, Jasby. You got to vote. It really
Yes.
is that simple in Texas, man. Like all of these policies don't mean anything unless we have systemic change here in Texas. We've lost for 30 plus years. Because let me tell you something, those same folks that make that money off of the grid failing or us not addressing it the way we're supposed to do it, whether it's more capacity for our grid, whether it's holding our electric companies more accountable, it's simple. They write $1 million check to Greg Abbott. There's no limits here in Texas. You can literally give whatever you want to whomever you want to, and there's no max. So when you're able to do that, you control the purse, you control the power, you control the lieutenant governor's gavel. And I'm gonna keep beating this dead horse because I keep telling everybody. Everybody wants to get really, really wonky. Well, your wonkiness does nothing if you have no power. The people that are really wonky right now on the other side, they have the power, so they get to do whatever they want to, right? We've got, and to really answer your question, Jasmine, we've got to regulate the market a lot better, right? You would hope that it would actually be more cost effective for us and not be on our own grid because of the volatility of the weather here in Texas and how extreme it gets, and be on the federal grid. It would help us tremendously, right? And we've got to make sure that we're holding our providers more accountable and making sure that they're the ones paying for our electrical rates going up. They're paying for our gas rates going up. They're the ones that are responsible for that because of the deregulation that's happened with our grid. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do to bolster this stuff. But really the most important thing right now is that we've got to win elections. And then when we win elections, we can create max for contribution that we get as officials and candidates and things like that in Texas. But until then, you're going to have CEOs of Fortune 500 companies writing $1 million checks to Greg Abbott. That's going to keep him in power. So we've got to vote. We've got to make sure it hurts them where it impacts the most, and that's the ballot box.
Now, I know a lot of states have a lot of public commission seats, but primarily in the state of Texas, I think you all call your seats the Public Utility Commission.
That's right.
So does the Texas State Senate or just the legislator in general, do you all work in tandem with the public commissions when it comes to, because I know a lot of times the public commissions, their whole function is to make sure they make a decision whether or not to increase the rates of the public utilities or keep them steady or lower them. Do you know much about how you all work with the public commission regarding that in the legislature?
Yeah, there's not much oversight, right? Because they're the ones that they will tell you free market's going to dictate the price, right? Supply and demand. So that's where we operate here in Texas. And yeah, there's a public utility commission. But remember, for us in Texas, they're all appointed by the governor. Right? That's why I
Oh,
keep
it's not an
going
elected
back
seat.
to
Okay, in
you
Texas.
got to go
Okay.
vote. The governor has tremendous power here in in his appointees, his or hers appointees, and that's part of it. It's the PUC. The governor is the one that appoints those folks on those commissions, and so that's why voting is really important here in Texas because the governor gets to say, "Hey, this person gave me $1 million. I'm gonna go put him on the PUC on the PUC." Right? So it all works hand in hand. And that's why we've got to make sure that we're doing a good job of making sure that we vote these folks out so that we can put actual experts in these roles and seats, and then they can work, I bet, better in tandem with the legislature.
Thank you for that. I didn't know that it was not an elected seat, so it's appointed by the governor. That's
That's
good to
right.
know. So, and that also goes into the point, as you said, about the importance of voting. So, not only with your race, but also up the ballot as well to know that things that affect us on our day to day lives, like the public utilities, that is predicated upon who you put in that seat on the top level of the state as well. So thank you for that answer. Okay, so there was a few questions in the chat. I know the chat has been scrolling. Y'all have been doing a dang up job on keeping this conversation engaged. Chat, keep it going. But I did see a question that someone asked you regarding the Cypress and Fairbanks area.
Mhm.
Their comment is in that area, people tend to live in fear every time that bad weather comes because they have in fear of losing power due to just even the snowstorm. So could you talk more about that? And is it something that the state legislator can do regarding that? Should there be more funding towards making the power grid more weatherized? I've heard talks about that in the past when the storm hit a few years ago and froze
Right.
people's pipes and stuff. So yeah, and bust people pipes as well. So yeah, can you talk more about that?
Yeah, listen, and I'm glad that they asked that question about Cypher specifically. It's not just Cypher, it really is the Gulf Coast region, right? It's Houston and its surrounding areas. We're always in fear. Listen, we just had like freeze warnings and things like that, and it wasn't as bad as it was projected, but we all prepare for the worst. Our HEBs down here, our Krogers, our Walmarts, they're always empty when we get an alert from the Weather Channel or from the Department of Emergency Services here in Texas, right? Because we had Winter Storm Uri in 2021. And a lot of people suffered. Texas looked like a third failed state. That is awful. Texas should never look like that. In the eighth largest economy in the world, it should never look like that. So there's always conversations about weatherizing our grid, weatherizing the pipes that we use, the electrical system, what our renewable resources look like, whether it's wind, it's solar, and all of that good stuff. So we're constantly always talking about it, right? Again, it goes back to whoever's in charge, your life is gonna be made better. And my argument to folks is, listen, the other side has been in charge for 30 plus years, and we don't really have anything to show for it. We're in the bottom half in the country in education. We have a minimum wage of $7 in 25 states. I think we're one of like 6 or 7 states that still does that. We don't have insurance. Gun violence in schools is always prevailing here. There was a case of the mumps and the measles here in Texas. I mean, it's just not great quality of life right now because of the people that are in charge due to some of the deregulation that we've seen in different aspects of our lives. But particularly with the weather, we're always on high alert. We had Harvey in 2017. We had Winter Storm Uri. We had a derecho. I had never heard the word derecho until literally a couple of years ago, which is just a fancy way of saying a powerful windstorm. So like that happened here, and it really hurt a lot of houses, and it's hurt insurance premiums. It's hurt the language that you see in insurance contracts that people are signing and policies they have. I mean, it's bad. And we've got to do a better job of making sure that, one, we talk to the experts, but most importantly, we're protecting the consumer. And that's what we haven't really done here in Texas. We talk too much about the free market. We don't talk enough about protecting the consumer. And that's really the goal for me when we head up to the legislature in 2027.
And absolutely, and just protecting the consumer and just the affordability and protecting jobs has definitely been a winning issue thus far of the trajectory I have been seeing for these special elections. So
Right.
yes, I think the messaging has been in the right direction. So I appreciate that. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and take a deep breath. We're gonna start the rapid fire questions. So this is gonna kind of test how quick you are on your feet.
All
So
right.
are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. What's one thing that Texas legislators can fix this session if politics weren't in the way? One
Minimum
thing.
wage. Easy.
Okay. What's a political buzzword you wish people would retire?
Uh,
I stumped you.
no, it's just there's a lot
Oh,
of words that come to my mind. I'm trying to be appropriate. Let's say moderate.
okay. Yeah, because it's very subjective. It can mean anything. So I appreciate that. Okay. What's the fastest way to get more young Texans engaged in state politics?
Listen,
All right.
listen more.
If Absolutely, it goes a long way. If every Texan could do one thing this year to strengthen democracy, what would it be?
Vote.
All right. What's one state policy that would immediately help small businesses in your district?
Giving more grants and having access to capital. And we have programs that do that. We just got to fully fund it more.
All right. What's a political strategy mistake you see candidates make all the time?
Not being themselves.
All right, that's a good one. What's one thing the state should be investing in way more than anything else?
Medicaid.
All right. And lastly, what's a Texas value you think the legislator forgets too often?
Everything is bigger here in Texas.
Hey, and all right, that wraps up the political portion of the rapid fire. So you did pretty good. Thank you for that.
I appreciate
All right,
it.
so we're gonna go ahead and tackle education. So as you mentioned earlier about Texas being somewhat, I guess you can call it like a superpower in a sense, because it's one of the eighth largest economies in the world. But that should also reflect education. So with that being said, education seems to be a top priority for you, and as it should be. You have highlighted that while the population of Harris County has grown, The investments of public education did not.
Right.
What policies do you plan on implementing to increase funding and resources once you're in the state house?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've got to do is that we've got to fully fund our public schools. One of the ways we do that is increase the basic allotment that we spent per pupil. We're like 46th or 47th in the country in the amount of money that we spend per child. Listen, if you want the future of Texas to be strong, you want the Texas Miracle to stay the Texas Miracle, you've got to invest in the future and you've got to invest in students. That's number one. Number two, we've got to make sure that kids are in a safe environment and we're being inclusive. So whether that means doing things with background checks with guns or making sure that we have more mental health counselors in schools, we're seeing mental health be at a rapid decline with students. One of the things that I actually really liked a lot, it may not be the most popular thing to say on a medium like TikTok, is we got rid of phones in schools. We had to do that. Students were too much on their phones. It was affecting the way they were reading. There was study after study after study. What's happened to them mentally, what's happened to them with their literacy scores, what's happened with them with their mental acuity, with their social acuity. I mean, there's a lot of things. And that's a policy that had way a lot of bipartisan support. So I was glad to see that bill be passed. And then we've got to make sure that we're not doing standardized testing and just teaching the test, but we're teaching to apply. That's really important. We've got to make sure that we're funding our schools based on enrollment and not attendance, because what it does is that schools in certain neighborhoods where you're not seeing attendance high, but the enrollment is higher, they're not getting the funds that they need. And that would help tremendously. So there's a lot of things, Jasby, as you can tell, I've thought about some of the things that we can do to help the legislature. And then the biggest thing for me that I'm going to kick on is that we've got to make sure that artificial intelligence is part of the core curriculum here in Texas. That's the future. That's where we're going. Listen, all of you that are watching and everyone that's on here, you use ChatGPT, Gemini, any artificial intelligence tool there is out there. That's where we're at right now. We've got to make sure that we're certifying our workforce and knowing how to work at a data center, how to code, how to do these things. And guess what? They don't require a 4-year college, right? They don't require a 4-year university or 4-year degree. We can easily do this through certification. We've got to talk about those things. So there's a lot of policies that we can do to tackle education, from increasing funding to being prepared for the future, to making sure that we're investing in the future, to making sure that students and educators are safe while they're learning. We've got to really be intentional about those things.
All right, thank you for that. And to your point, I'm in IT as well, so you're absolutely right. What I have a degree in is not what I do in my professional career in IT. And what I did was, when I went and got my certification, it cost a lot less than my actual 4-year degree. So a lot of people don't know that. So, and it definitely, once I got my certification, it was just sky's the limit as far as the opportunities is concerned in IT. So yeah, I think a lot of people should talk more about IT, because it tends to get very intimidating when people hear that word. Right. They think it's just very complex, but it's a big tent as far as things that you can tackle and what concentration you want to do. So thank you for touching on that, because a lot of people don't know you don't have to be a heavy coder to be in IT. They have lanes for non-code type of jobs in IT.
That's right.
But with that being said, I wanted you to touch on the federal level of the Department of Education and how it's going to affect the state level in Texas regarding education is concerned. Can you tell me how important that the federal government that has an influence on the local education, and should it be fully funded by the state? Can you tell me your thoughts on that, since the dismantling of the Department of Education on the federal level?
Yeah, and that's what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to get rid of the Department of Education. They'll give you all these facts that are just not true. It's more opinion. Listen, it's simple, and we don't have to be exaggerating this. Listen, it's all about funding. Right, that's Department of Education is supposed to help allocate resources, and when you dismantle that, it touches on the big thing is funding for the states. Then the other thing, it talks about social things like affirmative action, making sure that we're not being desegregated, even though making sure that we're not segregated. In ways that we have, in ways that we've come since Brown v. Board of Education. So that's really the main function of the Department of Education, and we've got to make sure that that it stays intact because funding. So many states rely on it, like a state like Texas. We'll lie and say we don't, but we do. And we just got to make sure that it's there. And we've got to make sure that we're actually having education professionals run the Department of Education and not Linda McMahon, right, who's coming from wrestling. So those are the things that are really important. And, I always say, I try not to tackle the federal issues. Maybe one day I'll be there, one day, hopefully, knock on wood. But right now it's talking about the Department of Education, Texas Education Agency here in Texas, and making sure that they're working well with our federal partners.
And with that being said, a lot of people don't know that the federal Department of Education, one of the many great things that happened in history came from the federal level, especially to your point when it came to desegregation. When states didn't want to abide by the rules of desegregating, the federal government had to come in and tell them to abide by the law. Also, when it comes to reporting things that are violating the law when it comes to people's educational rights, whenever the state does not advocate for you, you can report it up to the federal level to let them know. So that's one of the things that people don't understand, that when your state doesn't take care of you and advocate, go up above the command and go to the federal level and see if you can get action there. So I appreciate your answer on that.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to open it up for anyone who would like to come up and ask Odus a question regarding some of the things we just discussed. So we just covered the economy and jobs. We talked about affordability. We talked about also education. So feel free to come up. If not, just go ahead and plug them in the chat. I will pull some of them out. I did see a lot of people commenting about what we just discussed about the weather in Texas. Some people said that they had to prepare about investing into a generator because,
Right.
Just with the trauma of what that winter storm happened years ago, they knew that they have to be prepared, because you just never know with the climate these days, with the increasing of the temperature of the ocean. And it's going to essentially affect everything. The polar ice caps up in the northern part of the globe is going to affect when it comes to flooding as well. But we'll talk more about that in the environmental portion. So forgive me on that rant. So let's talk about healthcare. So regarding the federal Congress recently had a dispute over the ACA subsidies. Texas has one of the highest uninsured rates in the country, and it's around like 20%.
That's right.
What will you sponsor on the state level to ensure that Texas residents in your district, in particular, have responsible and adequate health care coverage?
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be dependent on what the state legislature looks like in the House and the Senate, and if we're able to get a lieutenant governor who cares enough or a governor that cares enough, right? The biggest thing is that we need help. We're the minority. We're in the opposition party. So I can follow the Medicaid expansion bills till I'm blue in the face, but the reality is that we're not in power, and we've got to be in power, and we've got people to vote. So if you want us to expand Medicaid and make sure that you're insured when you go to the hospital for any ailments that you have, you got to go vote. That's really the legislation that I can follow, is that you got to go help me, help you, help me, right? And that's the thing. And there's ways to expand Medicaid here and accepting the $10 billion that we already pay for. So that's the biggest thing.
Absolutely. All right, we have someone coming up on the chat, from the chat. Ms. Thick, did you have a question for Odus?
Hello. Hi, Odus.
Hello.
I just wanted to know, what is one legislative priority you worked on for Rep. Rosenthal that you feel is still unfinished business?
Oh, that's a good one. So there's one that we called Riley's Rule. And that one in particularly was, there was a kid in the district named Riley who had a chronic illness. And, what ended up happening is that he missed a lot of school days. And they were going to prevent him from graduating unless he did hours working the concession stands at a sporting event, or was doing all of these different odd tasks just to make up the hours. Well, we closed the loop on that in the state legislature, in making sure that people don't, students particularly, because they mix school of a chronic illness that they can't do anything about, they get dinged for, they get penalized. There's some cleanup that we've got to do in making sure that it's being implemented, actually, because we've heard stories of people saying, hey, the school districts are finding loopholes in the statute of, oh, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. So we're going to work really hard on that. The other thing that Rep. Rosenthal did that we'll try to take a crack at, we'll see, is child marriage. And it's a funny story because the way that we came with the idea, and we're not the first people to try to ban child marriage, but during COVID, I want to say, we were binge watching it. It was a show that I was watching, and it was dealing with child marriage, and they had the number and stuff. And I called our legislative director, and I was like, hey, what's the child marriage rules like in Texas? And so we figured out that it did get bumped to like 17 and some months from the work that the dean in the state house, Symphonia Thompson, who is from Houston, actually done some work on. But we want it to be a flat out 18 or younger, because that's really important to us. And no matter what, there's no exceptions. Children shouldn't be married. You shouldn't be able to make these decisions on a whim. And so those are some of the things that we're going to work on. Some of the stuff that he worked on in the grid, weatherizing the grid as well, too. We didn't really push the needle on that, but I think there's some appetite to do better with our grid. And listen, our grid has held up with some of these extreme weather. So, we can't complain too much. It's held up, but there's so many more things that we can do to make sure that people aren't freezing to death in their home. So those are just some of the things that he's done. And then obviously expanding Medicaid, fully funding schools, making sure that our basic allotment is rising, those things like that. There's a lot of unfinished business when it comes to that. But again, like I said, we need help to make sure those things cross the finish line.
Thank you very much for that answer.
Absolutely.
All right. Was there anything else you wanted to ask Odus?
No, that's it. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. So I wanted to ask you another question regarding healthcare, because this has definitely been something that's definitely been affecting certain demographics, particularly in the state of Texas. So, and I'm going to use some TikTok friendly words because I know it can be very triggering to the algorithm. So hope you can kind of catch my drift whenever I'm asking this question. So Black mothers in Texas are unaliving at the highest maternal mortality rates in the U.S.
That's
it's
right.
about 4 times higher than the national average of white women.
Right.
And Black infants are unaliving at more than twice the national average. And that's about 11.6 unalivings per 1,000 births. So could you tell me, how would you address that in the state of Texas? And what kind of policy prescriptions would you propose to the state Senate when you're elected regarding this matter?
Listen, for those of you that have been listening to this, you're just going to keep hearing the same thing over and over again. When you're in the minority, there's not much you can do unless you're in the majority. Now, I will tell you, Medicaid expansion is big in this. That's where it starts with maternal mortality. We have to start with Medicaid expansion. One of the best things that ever happened was Toni Rose, who's a state rep out of Dallas, and what she was able to do was expand Medicaid, particularly of those particularly for postpartum, from going from 2 months to 12 months coverage. That was huge in the state of Texas, because to expand anything that has to do with Medicaid is a big deal, particularly to the right, and a talking point. So building on the successes of people like Toni Rose, listen, it won't get any further than that unless we flip some seats in the state legislature, we get some Senate seats, we get the lieutenant governor's gavel, we get the attorney general's office, we get the governor's mansion. Stuff like that won't change. But to build on the success that Toni Rose had is going to be really important for us. It's going to be vital. But we can't build on that success unless we get more seats in the legislature and expanding coverage.
And what is the seat majority in the Texas State Senate? Is it, do you know off the top?
Right now, we just flipped a seat in Tarrant County, Democrat winning, flipping a seat there for the first time in like 50 years, half a century. We're really excited. Taylor Ramette, which now makes it 12 senators in the state Senate. There's a 31 member body, so it's 19 to 12 now. And then in the state house, it's 88-62 right now. So we got some work to do, right? Hopefully we can get it all in one fell swoop here in the next election cycle, but we're trying to claw our way back. So that way, by the time to 2030, we're in the majority. And then, the lieutenant governor's gavel is really powerful in the state of legislature. People will tell you that the lieutenant governor is the most powerful legislator there is in the state of Texas. So, you've got to get that gavel because they really set the agenda. And then the governor's mansion, the power of the veto, and to call special sessions. So, it's vitally important. That's why state legislatures are so important, and you pay attention to them, because you can give all of the policy wonkiness out there and the minutia of what I would do here and what I would do there, but the reality is you can't do any of that unless you're in power. And so that's why I just keep talking about voting and voting access.
Now, as far as I know that the Texas legislator, it was nationally big headlines months ago with the redistricting. I know that the redistricting was redistricting the districts on the federal level,
That's right.
but did it also
No,
redistrict for
no, it's
the
just the
House
federal.
races and the state Senate?
No,
Okay,
just federal.
okay. I was just trying to make sure because now that on the federal level with those districts, now they're becoming opportunity districts. Their whole goal was to make it just heavily red
Right.
districts leaning, but now they're saying based off of the numbers, it could be opportunity districts, meaning that it can sway either way. So
That's
that
right.
is a bit interesting from the articles I read. From the whole intention of what they were doing, now it's starting to backfire.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with that being said, I just wrapped up the portion about talking about healthcare. There was a few questions in the chat, and I can revisit them. I don't mind about the other topics we just highlighted. So Patricia asked, how would you fix the issues in the largest school district in Texas? Is that in your district?
No, no,
That
no.
the
I
school
have like
district?
I have the third largest school district in the state, and what we just did there in Fair was to actually answer that question is we flipped it. So we had a 6-1 right wing extremist. We had a school board member who was recording constituents. They were deleting chapters from textbooks. They were not working for Fair families. And when you move to Fair, the area that I'm from, you move there for the school district, and you move there because you get more bang for your buck for the property taxes and for your property. And so I had the fortune of being the lead strategist and the general consultant for the school board. And so it went from a 6-1 right wing extremist to a 4-3 pro public education board now. And so we're really excited about that. We're really proud of that. So that way we can get rid of all the extremism, build coalitions, whether it's Republicans, Democrats, and independents alike, and make sure that our students are being educated. The Texas miracle is alive and that our working families are thriving families. HISD is in a unique situation. I won't touch on it much because I gotta leave that for my future colleagues who are dealing with that. But yeah, the state has taken over their school district with really no fair, equitable due process. And the state is afforded to do that with the laws that are on the books here in Texas. And so they're trying their hardest to get their school district back. But in order for them to really do that, they've got to go flip the governor's mansion. The Texas Education Agency Commissioner, it's appointed by the governor. The governor has a lot of stroke here in the state of Texas, a lot of appointees. And so that's why these elections matter. That's why who's writing these bills matter, who's executing this legislation matters. We got to make sure that we get friendly faces in there so that way things like what's happening at HISD don't happen in school districts like Fair. And you're starting to see that actually around the state of Texas. I think Fort Worth, I think up in down here in Beaumont, Austin, there's parts of it, holes of it. The state's starting to take over these school districts. And the last thing we need is a state making decisions about what you need locally.
Thank you for that. And I see a lot of people are liking your answers, and I saw that Trish said that you have your vote. She definitely are liking your answers, and she's in your district, so she definitely appreciates this.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. And there's another question from Dick. She said, "What is the biggest hidden costs that are hitting families in your district right now?"
Yeah, I think, listen, between not being able to afford your rent, right, your $7.25, these tariffs that we've talked about a little bit, it's hurting the economy big time. You have a lot of construction workers. We have a lot of oil and gas folks that live in the district. We sit on top of the energy corridor here in Houston, right? And your insurance, your premiums that you're paying, right? You saw what just happened federally with the Affordable Care Act subsidies, right? Subsidizing your health insurance. I mean, listen, these costs, they might not be hidden and they might be hidden for some, but these are the things that people are dealing with right now in the district and in our families. And so when you're thinking about these things, and I'm thinking about how families can just get by, these are the things that I think about. I think about the health costs. I think about education. I think about groceries, right? When higher middle class and now the rich percentile is literally going to the store and saying this costs too much, you have a problem, right? You're starting to hear that more and more and more. And so, we've got to think about those things. And then, like, utilities is another hidden cost that we don't talk enough about because of the grid. People are still paying for Winter Storm Uri. That happened in 2021 or in 2026, and people are still paying for that cost that happened. So, it's just, there's just so many things you can talk about that are hidden costs that are impacting people, not just in the state of Texas or in Houston, but in House District 135 in the Cypher and Katy area.
Absolutely. And I think people have been getting squeezed so much over the past year. I've been hearing stories of people making tough decisions between paying for their food, their utilities, and their prescription costs. Like, even if they have prescriptions that are pills, they have to break their pills in half.
Right.
Those who are dealing with insulin, thankfully, the Biden administration on the federal level capped the cost of insulin. But other prescription costs that were just as high as insulin have not came down yet. So I think that putting those type of kitchen table issues on the forefront to let people know that for those who are checked out of politics, thinking that politics are not affecting you, well, understand, if you're checked out of it, you're basically telling someone else you want them to make a decision for you.
That's
So
right.
to your point about saying vote, that kind of goes back to the whole mantra of what Barack Obama said when he goes to galvanize for other candidates: don't boo, but vote.
That's
Because
right.
that's the first step. When you vote, that's just the first step. You don't just go back and be complacent afterwards. You have to take the step to continue to push your representatives and the people that you hold in office, because they don't know what you want unless you tell them. So
Right.
yes, absolutely. I appreciate that. Okay, and so this is a good segue into talking about bipartisanship and leadership. So I want to know what motivated you to run for the Texas House, primarily regarding that. I know you touched on it earlier, but I want to know specifically about once you're elected in this house seat, how would you strongly advocate for your district while working across the aisle for the state?
Yeah, we talk about it all the time on the campaign when I'm on the campaign trail. Listen, I'll stand up to anyone. I'll work with anyone as long as we do right by us. And that's what matters the most. Am I doing right by us? Am I doing right by the constituents of House District 135? Am I doing right by Texans? And that's what matters the most to me. What's my service like, right? Listen, we're all going to be doing TikTok lives. We're all going to be on CNN, MSNBC, or talking to the Texas Tribune, the Houston Chronicle, or get to go do these things. But it's all about service and how are we making lives better for people? How are we making working families thrive? That's what's really important to me. And that's what really spurs me and wakes me up every day, motivated to do this. And like I said earlier, I hate injustice because we're supposed to love. We're not supposed to hate. We're supposed to be inclusive. We're not supposed to be exclusive. We're supposed to deconstruct segregation and not desegregate, right? These things matter. And so that's why it's so important for me to get there in the legislature. And listen, we're going to lead one day. We're going to flip the Texas State House. We're going to have to govern, and we're going to need people who know how to work across the aisle. We're going to need people who know what it means to build coalitions to get the job done. And I've done that. I've done that throughout my whole career. And I just talked to you about the Cypher School Board elections. The reason why we were able to get it from 6-1 right-wing extremists to a 4-3 pro-public education school board is because it wasn't just Democrats. It was independents. It was Republicans. It was all of us alike. We can find common ground. My mom tells me all the time in her thick Nigerian accent, hey, there's a reason why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. I talk a lot, so that means I have to listen a whole lot more. And that's what we have to do as a country. That's what we have to do as House District 135. That's what we have to do as a state.
Absolutely. And just with that follow up, someone asked in the chat, would you vote for cannabis legislation? What are
Yeah,
your
it's
views
beyond
on
that.
exonerating Texans?
Yes, and we could go like that. That's easy. Yeah, we
Yeah.
got to legalize. We've got to legalize cannabis in the state of Texas. It helps with our economy, but also there's too many people in prison off of just carrying weed. Right, we've got to do better. Weed is now legalized in so many states. Hopefully, federally, we can do something about that as well too. But that's an easy yes for me.
Absolutely. And I do have a follow-up with you regarding leadership is concerned. So once you're elected, a lot of people tend to just feel like, okay, once I've gotten my candidate in the office, they tend to forget about them, or they're not as engaged as they were on the campaign trail. So how would you stay engaged with the candidates? Would you go like the old-fashioned way of just sending like snail mail to send out surveys, or would you email your constituents? Would you hold regular town halls in person? Can you tell me what that looks like for you?
Yeah, that's easy for me. We've got to modernize the way that we do politics, right? And we've got to engage in pop culture, right? How do we do these things and get people excited? One of the things that we've talked about is doing pop ups in our district. We've got to, whether it's at a grocery store, a comic book store, or a sneaker store, you got to go pop up. Go engage the voter where they're at, right? We've got to be active on socials. We're doing a TikTok live now, getting on Twitter, getting on Facebook still, because there's a lot of people on Facebook, making sure we're creating reels for TikTok algorithms, Facebook Reels, YouTube Reels. So the social media mediums is something that we take advantage of. Our email program is very robust. Our text message program is very robust too. Engaging with influencers, not just in the social media space, but outside as well too, whether that's entertainers or that's movie stars or whoever it is, or local athletes that we've had. In fact, I'm in conversations with Shanae and Nneka Ogumake, who were #1 WNBA draft picks. They're
Yes, I'm friends
sisters.
with them.
They came from Cy-Fair, and they're the only sisters in professional sports history to be drafted #1 by the league. So it's incredible to not just have one, but you have two. We have De'Aaron Fox, who is a basketball player for the San Antonio Spurs, who's really popular. He's a Cy-Fair kid. Actually grew up down the street from me. Paul Wall, the rapper who grew up in Jersey Village, it used to be in the district, but now it's no longer. But he grew up in the Cy-Fair area. So it's having meaningful engagement, networking, not getting tired of it, being relentless when it comes to it. We'll have some traditional things as well too, like some mail and some district newsletter, but really taking advantage of the nuanced and modern ways of how we can talk to voters.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And so I know I mentioned earlier that we had a set of rapid fire questions that was more political in nature. So now we're going into the fun portion
Okay.
of the rapid fire. So the first question I have for you is, you have to choose between one of the two because it may be hard. I don't know what your background is on this, but which one would you choose, Houston or UH Pride? And UH Pride, are you a big fan of Houston and UH Pride?
Well, I went to Houston. I'm a
Okay.
University of Houston alum, so anything University of Houston, I'm picking all day.
Okay. All right. Your favorite university of Houston memory?
Oh, going to the Final Four. Going to the Final Four, we went to San Antonio, took the trip. Listen, it was a heartbreaker. We lost to Florida, but that's been my favorite memory so far because we were so close for saying that we have a national championship and the rest of the Texas schools
Were
not
you
having.
at the game?
I was. We drove
Oh,
up.
you were in the student section?
Yes, yep, that's right. Yeah, we were in the student section.
Okay,
Yep.
so I can imagine you probably lost your voice after the game.
Oh, I did. I was heartbroken. I was sitting there like this, and I was heartbroken. We got to go see some other friends as well too that were all around, but that was an incredible moment for us.
All right, great. So regarding UH Cougar game, what's the UH Cougar game that's essential for you on game day?
Repeat that. The
What is the essential game day thing for you on game day? Like, can you tell me what is? Do you have like a ritual or something that you do special on that
no
day?
ritual.
when it's game
I'm
day
not
for
a
you?
superstitious person. Listen, if
Okay.
if you practice the way you're gonna play, you're gonna win 9 times out of 10. The 1 out of 10, it just wasn't in your favor.
Oh, I'm saying as far as like a fan's perspective, like, do you do anything special on game day for
Nope.
you as a fan, student
Nope.
fan? Okay.
It's, hey, let's wear our Cougar red or the black or the gray, whatever memorabilia or anything that I can put on. I'll put it on, and then hey, roll out the ball and see how it goes.
All right. What's a Houston food you'll defend with your life?
Oh, Tex-Mex. Tex-Mex is the bomb. Particularly for me, I really like enchiladas a lot.
Okay. Tex-Mex is good. I do enjoy Tex-Mex, but I haven't had Texas Tex-Mex, so I know that's a difference with that. So
Yeah,
I'm
there is.
definitely going
There
to
is.
try that next
And then,
time I
and then
go
a
into the
close
state.
second, guys, because they will kill me if I say this. Texas barbecue is the best barbecue ever. I know our folks in Kansas City and Memphis are going to say
I know it's
something.
debatable
Yeah.
because it can be depending on the region. Because I
Yeah.
live in Alabama, so yeah, it depends. But I will say I've tried the Texas barbecue. It's really good. It's different, but it's good. I can appreciate the differentiation of it. So I would say it shouldn't be a competition because depending on the region, the barbecue is different. Like in Kansas City, they specialize more in brisket.
Yeah.
So the brisket is awesome in Kansas City, and I know there's different types of. I mean, it's pretty much the same meat, but it's a different style of barbecue and then the
Yeah.
barbecue sauce. So it
That's
just
right.
depends on the
That's right.
region. So yeah, it's good. All right. So regarding the podcast and media, tell me quickly, what podcast do you recommend for everyone right now that you're listening to?
Higher Learning with Van Lathan.
I like higher learning. Yes, I do
Every-
I like higher learning. Okay. So do you listen to political or do you listen to like true crime type of podcasts? If you could choose the two, which one?
Oh, I do both, but I would probably prefer true crime because I'm in politics all the time. I eat, sleep, breathe politics. So podcast actually is my way to get away from it. So true crime, things like Slow Burn, things like The Read with Crizzle and Kid Fury. Like I'm that person that's trying to be into the pop culture references and things like that, and keeping up with my little sister who's 10 years younger than me, and trying to be like, oh my gosh, this is moving a lot more faster than it did when I was younger.
Okay, and so this is more specifically regarding the personal style and preferences for you. So tell me your early morning strategy. Are you more of an early morning strategist or your late night strategist?
Oh, I'm
What gets
both.
your wheels turning?
Yeah, I'm actually both. Like I'm weird at that. Like I'm an early bird and a night owl. I think I would prefer being an early bird strategist more so than the the night owl, because I got to go sleep at some point.
Okay, and in one word that your friends would use to describe you.
Funny.
Okay, and this is regarding mentorship and leadership. Tell me some quickly your best advice you'll give to emerging leaders that are running
Ask
for
is not
office.
a word; it's an acronym. Always seeking knowledge.
Absolutely. Is that referenced by someone, or is that
No,
you came up with that quote? I think you need to trademark that. Okay.
I think I might have to, because every time I say people, I'm like, wait, what? Yeah, I just one day I just literally just saw us always seeking knowledge.
Absolutely. And lastly, what's one thing you wish more young organizers knew?
You have time.
Time. Absolutely.
You
All
have
right,
time.
that wraps up the fun portion of my political and fun rapid fire questions. So we do have someone up on the panel who would like to ask you a question, Otis. So Buttermilk, how are you? Do you have a question for Otis?
How you doing?
I'm
Otis,
doing
I am part of OVC. I'm part of the research department. So I actually did the research on you, and I'm telling you, I was impressed from the door. So I
thank
just
you.
could not wait for this town hall to hear you say it out loud, right?
Thank you.
But I do want to first point out a question that was asked, and I think it's really important if you know anything about any investigations happening with the bodies found in the Houston area. I believe it's in it was, is it a bayou
The
or
Bayou.
Oh yes, that's happening in the city of Houston, and yeah, the district attorney office, excuse me, HPD, the mayor, they're all working on that. There's been nothing said yet. I know the district attorney came out and said something not too long ago, and the mayor, but it wasn't of anything of substance. I mean, I think they're tracking it and they're seeing it and they're monitoring the situation. One of the things that folks don't know is that like this has actually been a yearly thing. So like I don't know why
mm,
it became popular in a sense this year go around, but like this has been a thing about bodies being found in that bayou, and most of the time those folks that are unalived in the bayou, they are homeless or just mentally ill and things like that. And so it's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that's where those bodies end up.
yeah, I definitely did not know, as I'm not a citizen of Texas,
Yeah,
that this was something that was common.
yeah,
Unfortunately, that doesn't sound good. I think it needs to be a bigger investigation at this point, if that's the case.
yeah.
But my question I actually came up here for. Um, you're in district, you're running for district 135. Do you find that a lot of people do not know that there is a smaller district from the big district of Congress? A lot of people say, oh, that's not my district, but they're usually typically thinking of the bigger districts of the
Yeah.
35 or so that it is for Texas, and then it's broken down in even smaller districts that they may or may not know that they're a part of. How can you make people aware that this is different?
Yeah, I mean that's the constant battle, right? Is that it's voter education, voter education, voter education. Most people are focused on who's running for Congress, right? Because that's why you'll have people from a Washington state give to someone running for a Texas congressional seat, or you'll have someone running for a congressional seat and getting donations from all 50 states. One of my goals is that we've been traveling the state of Texas, and folks will ask me all the time, well, you're from Houston. Why are you up here in Dallas if you're running for the state legislature? And I love that question, because my thing is that we have to start thinking about this holistically. My vote in the state legislature doesn't just impact the people in House District 135. It impacts all of Texas.
I just said that.
So you better know who is representing you in different areas, because their vote matters to your life. And as we know, Tip O'Neill, the former Speaker of the House in the Reagan days, all politics is local. So the closer it is to your door, the more important it is. And they're impacting and shaping the way they're viewing stuff from a Houston suburban point of view, where I'm at, to someone who's in Odessa, Texas, in a rural area. Hell, even some of the votes that I might take as a suburban night in Houston is going to be different than an urban night in Houston. That's how big we are in Harris County. If Harris County was a state, it'd be the 25th largest state in the country. So you're constantly always thinking about that and always telling folks, like, this is why it's important to stay plugged in with your state legislature. They're the ones that make the rules that you have to abide with the most. Yes, there's federal rules that supersede it, but locally you determine the budget, right? We're constitutionally obligated to not pass any law in the state of Texas except the budget. So that's why it's so important. You tell me where your priority is at, show me your budget. And that's why it's important to making sure that you're giving to not just the federal people and giving out of state, but keeping that money in state and looking at the people who's running in other legislative seats around you, because we're as powerful as the collective. That's why the whole time I've been talking about voting, I've been beating that dead horse. In order for any of these policies that I've talked about to take shape or take form, we need the majority. I myself cannot do that alone from House District 135. That's why I wish sometimes we would take the talking points that we use nationally and we use them locally, right? Because it's the same thing that applies. The Republican Congress can't do anything if there's no Republicans voting, right? That agenda can't be passed. Same thing with Democrats. Same thing with the White House. Same thing with the Supreme Court. It all works in tandem. That's why you gotta vote. Not just the top of the ticket, but all the way down, and try to get as well versed as you possibly can.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me up. I did see a question in the comments real quick that said, were you endorsed by any Texas candidates? I just encourage you all to go check out his webpage. He has them all over there, all over the page.
I was gonna say, listen, I'm fortunate enough to have grown up in this. I mean, people literally have seen me grow up in this in the state of Texas and in Houston. I was the chair of the Harris County Democratic Party, again, the third largest county in the state. In the third largest county in the country, the largest county in the state of Texas. I've gotten endorsements from our Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher and Greg Casar, who's the chair of the Progressive Caucus in D.C. Julie Johnson, my friend, I've been endorsed by the guy who has a seat, even though he'll tell you that's easy because we're like family. We literally spend Christmases together. And then I've been endorsed by over half of the Democratic caucus as well, too. And then some local leaders as well, and our community leaders. I have all of our, what we call precinct chairs, like our neighborhood captains. They're elected here in Texas. So yes, I have been endorsed. Someone told me the other day, "Oh, you've been christened for the seat." So much so that I don't even have a primary opponent. It's a safe Democratic seat. It's a D+22 seat, and so that's really rare. For those of you that don't know, if you're sitting in a safe seat, normally you're going to be in a primary of 6 or 7 people. We were able to do such a phenomenal job. The team that we have is amazing, selling the product and making sure that folks know what we're about in servantship. And being from the area helps a lot. When people can see you, like, I've known Odus since he was this tall. It helps, right? So now you get to go represent those folks. So we're locked and loaded, ready to go. The biggest thing I keep doing all the time from a civics perspective.
Oh, we might have lost.
Okay, I think he got it.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Hey, it's been really, really good. So
All right. Well, thank you. Good luck.
thank you.
I'm all the way from DC. I will be telling anyone that's in the Texas, check out, make sure you're not in Texas District 135. If so, vote for Odus. I got your back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jazz.
All right, thank you, Buttermilk. All right, so and I just wanted to comment on what you just said about voting. And I think you also mentioned something along the lines of if it's not in the budget, it's not going to happen, which is very, very true. People just think, okay, yes, more importantly, the first step is to vote, but also pay attention to the budget. I visually can, when I hear the word budget, I visually can see a pie chart.
That's
that
right.
definitely tells me what money is being spent in that pool of money, like the percentage and what category is being spent on. So ultimately on a state level or in local level or federal level, just be, for those who are listening, just be more familiar with looking at the budget and seeing how things are being spent. And I was listening to a podcast a while back, and this rings true. that a candidate that was running for city council said, if it's not in the budget, it's not going to happen. So if
That's right.
people ask questions like, hey, why hasn't the pothole been fixed on my street or in my neck of the woods, or why haven't the parks been cleaned up on my city level? It goes back to that whole point. If it's not in the budget, it's not going to happen. Therefore, you need to show up to those public meetings to let people know what needs to get done, because everybody's eyes and ears as representatives can't catch everything. So bring it to your representatives or the people that represent you in office attention on what needs to get done. Okay, there's one more person in the queue, so I want to bring her up. Hi, Patricia. How are you? Patricia, can you hear us?
Yes, can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just hopped up real quick. I wanted to say I'm super excited about you, Odus. I was asking about the endorsements because I was about to text my cousin Chris Hollins and say, hey, you need
Oh,
to
wait
know
a
this
minute.
guy.
Do you,
Yes,
Chris Holland? Okay, so
that's
I
my
got.
cousin. But I saw the endorsement on your thing, and so I said, okay, he already knows, because I was like, OMG, this dude is it.
So Patricia, you got to know and text Chris. He's like one of my best friends in this.
Oh,
So
shut up.
yeah, me and him. I was just with him the other day. Yeah, me and him are. That's like a brother to me. I mean, him and Christian Menifee,
Yes,
who
I'm
is.
so excited about Christian. Listen, don't get
Yeah,
me started.
Christian. I'm actually, Jazz B, and I got to tell y'all, we didn't know he was going to get sworn in today because I
Yeah, I
cannot tell
saw
y'all
that, and I'm
live.
so excited for that too.
I would have missed today. I would have been like, we got to reschedule because I've missed this swearing in today.
It's later
But
tonight, right?
yeah, I actually, before I ran for office, I was running Christian Menifee's campaign, actually.
Oh, nice.
And then I had to roll off because obviously I had to do this, and my old boss is running for a statewide seat here in Texas. But yeah, us three roll as a pack. That's my guy, Chris Hollins and Christian. Those two, like, I'm the one that's not married, obviously, out of the two of them, and they would be my wedding sitting right next to me. Yeah, we're like best friends, and we're really proud of Christian. So happy for him
Me
to
too.
carry that legacy of Barbara Jordan. But yeah, Chris is my guy. Hopefully one day we'll be calling him mayor. One
Yeah,
day.
listen, don't get me started on that because it should have been now. But anyway, that's another story. But yeah, so I'm so excited. I'm glad to know that.
Yeah, text him, let him know. I'm sure he's gonna hit me up and be like, "Nah, my cousin Patricia was
Right,
saying."
I would say I just met him today. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I mean, we need more of you. Like
Thank
you, Christian Menifee, my cousin. I mean, it's y'all's turn.
Thank you.
The old politicians have to go. We're tired of them.
We're trying.
I just wanted to say that. Thank you so much. You did a really good job.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Patricia. Do you want to say anything else?
No, that's it. You can drop me. I'm listening.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, bye. And to Patricia's point, a shameless plug. We've been trying to get Christian Menifee onto OVC before the runoff and the actual election back in November. So the fact that you know these people firsthand, that's amazing. And we've been trying to get Jasmine Crockett as well, but I know she has a major team that handles all of her social media and all that. So
Moving. Yeah.
yeah, hopefully one day we will, but we'll continue to just be persistent in the meantime. But ultimately, I wanted to tackle more about who's in your primary. Are you the only person on the Democratic side that's running?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the fact that you are, it's a heavily blue district, so yeah, that's amazing. But with that being said, just to close out, thank you so much for taking the time out to speak with me. I know you said that you wanted to go ahead and catch Christian swearing in, so I'm not going to hold you too long.
It's okay. It's happened. I'll go watch or rewatch. Listen, I was there to see it, so he's gonna be just fine.
Okay. But with that being said, what the final word to the people that are listening and those who will listen to the playback of this, what is your message to voters ahead of the primaries and election day?
Yeah, get involved. Listen, I meant it. This movement, this moment right now, it's not about politics. It's about me and you. It's about the people. It's about us. Because every family, every child, every dream does deserve a fair shot, an equitable shot. We've got to do it for us. We've got to put us back at the forefront. So go vote in the primary, starting February 17th for us here in Texas. Election day is March 3rd. It's important who's going to represent you for your Democratic or Republican values if you swing that way. So that way in the general election, you have the best person possible to represent you, whether it's in Washington, D.C., whether it's in Austin, whether it's on your city council, whether it's on your school board. You have the best possible person that's going to represent you. And listen, be patient with these guys. It doesn't happen overnight. right? We've got to make sure that we have systems in place that's going to help, but keep them accountable, making sure they're doing what they say they were going to do. Listen, I don't have a primary opponent. We've been block walking. I've been raising money. It's important to me to not just turn out my district for myself, but for the people of Texas. That means getting new representation statewide. That means working hard. That means not just saying, hey, I'm sitting in a safe seat, so I'm good. No, I'm not good. There's somebody that's hungry. There's someone who doesn't have insurance. There's someone who can't read. There's someone who can't afford a home. There's someone out there struggling. We've got to make their life better. And as an immigrant, as a proud product of public schools, as a small business owner, as a person who's continually building coalitions everywhere we go, that's what we have to go do. We've got to go make it work for working families. Because like I said before, when working families are thriving, Texas thrives. So
Absolutely.
run it for us because I believe in us.
Thank you for that. And once again, before you go, I do want to send a couple of invites to you. So hopefully you'll take us up on our offer. So the first invite I have for you and the audience is to join us on our next town hall. We will be having Julian Bodion, who's running for U.S. Senate in South Dakota. That will be tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a double hitter. And we will also have Maria Flores on tomorrow as well, who's running for Congress in Arizona's 8th Congressional District. So specifically with Maria Flores, that is our 100th. Can you believe it, everybody? This is our 100th town hall with Maria Flores. So we will be doing something a little bit special tomorrow, out of the usual format of our town hall. So Odus, if you would like to stop in and show some love, feel free to do so. But this is a great milestone for our vote counts, because we came together as a collective of just friends who were just passionate about politics and wanted to create a platform for candidates like you to hear people's to hear your policies and engage with your constituents, or just people that's not in your neck of the woods, just to understand who you are. So this has been an amazing thing for us to build from the ground up, and hopefully you'll come by and listen to the conversation. And lastly, we do have a roundtable candidate live stream that we do every 2 weeks, and it consists of candidates like you on the panel. We have about 6 of them, 6 candidates on the panel, and we just talk about a wide array of topics, whether it's current events or just policy questions. So be on the lookout for our invitation email to the candidate roundtable. So our next candidate roundtable will be February 15th. That's on a Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But we definitely enjoyed you, so we wanted to extend a direct invitation to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And congratulations, 100 town halls, excuse me. That is huge. Yes. That is huge. Keep it going.
Thank you so much. And lastly, I wanted to give a special shout out to you for being here and having this conversation with us, our vote counts for hosting this town hall, also the participants in the live stream, and last but not least, our OVC team, from the research team to our leadership to our team that handles the correspondence between the candidates and their managers, and our social media team and our compliance and our legal team. We have departments and jobs, right? So it wouldn't function without you seeing this great work that you see here on the screen. We have a great team in the back end. So I want to give a special shout out and love and appreciation to our team in the back end that you don't see. But before we close out, I want to go ahead and give everybody our mantra for our vote counts. We are a nonpartisan movement uniting Americans from all walks of life to empower voters, support candidates of integrity, and ensure that every voice is heard. Through education, outreach, and accountability and action, we are building a stronger democracy. So with one informed vote at a time, please join us, because your vote is your power. So until then, see you all tomorrow and have a great night. Bye.
Bye, y'all.